Yeah, I brought the jacket. I ought to put it on. Anyway, hey, thank you guys. I'm the owner of the Pea Ridge Mine, about 40 miles from here. And there is a lot of slides and not much time, so there we go. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're going to do a quick lesson here about high operating temperature magnets. These are the magnets that would go into an F-35 or an EV or a wind turbine or high quality earbuds. Because of a long-standing failure to understand things about high temperature operating magnets, we've made a lot of really bad policy decisions. The only thing that really kind of matters is in that top row, those last three are what matters. You can get NdPr anywhere, everywhere. We produce it. The other three, as the last slide showed, 99.999% of TBDY-HO comes from China. Kind of crazy. Those top five elements represent 90% of all value of all rare earths in the entire planet. And collectively, they're less than 20% of the total volume on, globally coming out of the ground. And then when you convert them into metal, strangely, those same five are now 95% of the total value, which means all the rest of those rare earths aren't worth very much. Okay, NdFeB magnets. Truly a miracle, 35 times stronger than a traditional magnet, ferrite magnet. The problem is, once you get into high operating temperatures, anything over 80 degrees C, the magnet, it basically loses its magnetic strength, its coercivity, so they're not stable. And so if you made a true NdFeB magnet without any TBDY or HO, as you got to higher operating temperatures, the characteristics that you need from that magnet fade away and in some cases are permanently gone. So I list the grades of magnets, and N grade is basically a straight NdFeB magnet. And to remember that, just think of a novelty item, toys and novelty items. That's what those magnets are for. So again, I'm just going to keep hitting this over and over. The military basically uses UH, EH, AH magnets. They consume a lot of TBDY-HO. There you have the N-grade magnet off the chart in the bottom. Again, another way to look at this, advances in preserving and reducing the amount of TBDY and HO needed to get the same stability. And that curve keeps moving backwards, and that's a great trend. But it's, at this moment in time in the commercial space and all application spaces, it remains true that you have to have them for your stability. Okay. So the point is that the TBDY universally is needed. It's absolutely critical. You have to have it. And I think I pounded that home pretty good. We're going to go over some other structural advantages for China. Massive overcapacity. And you were just talking, the person up here before me, sorry I caught the end of it, but this is the single killer. The government, all of these corporations are state-owned enterprises. So capital is free. There's no expectation of profits or returns. And what they do is they set up 2, 3, 5, 6 state-owned enterprises, and they make them compete against each other. And you get a form of competition that doesn't even exist in the United States. And these people operate at sub-margins, right? So it's a massive problem that the United States can't deal with because we are in a capitalist system of profits and rewards. And so you're not on the same playing field. You're hardly on the same planet. Coordination and integration. 20 years ago, there was 1,000 rare earth companies. Then there were 12. Then there were 6. Then there were 2. Maybe there'll be 1. End of the day, I wrote a paper about this, but the coordination from the government all the way through all of these critical materials platforms is extreme. It's highly efficient. Unlike our government, it is highly efficient. And they're able to produce the world's greatest rare earth magnets at costs far, far, far away from anything we can achieve. And manufacturers like them because they're 100% reliable, they're inexpensive, and you can't throw an engineering challenge towards them they can't handle. The other thing that China does, this is a sneaky little thing, is they have a VAT tax, and then there's a rebate. So if you send out material before it's metallic, you have to pay a tax. So what they do is when any of the materials we need, such as terbium, dysprosium, holmium, or samarium, when we buy those out of China, they all have a tax on them. And so our production cost starts at a much higher point. And it encourages all of that work to be done inside China. So what does the margin environment look like inside China? This is from somebody who operated in the rare earth business, and he still does for 2, maybe 3 decades. If you send China rare earth concentrates, you are rewarded. You get 20, 25%, depending on what your rare earth distribution is. Very, very healthy margin there. On the other end, if you make a magnet inside China, you can expect about a 10% margin. But look at that middle space. That middle space is a valley of death. And this is China's internal returns in a country where capital is free, right? The average margin in there is 3%. Nobody's doing anything for 3%. And you add our cost of capital, and you're probably losing 12 or 15%. So this is another way of managing their monopoly. Again, look at that. That is brutal. And it's designed to keep the U.S. out of the middle space. And they'll let us make magnets where we can make magnets because some company's willing to pay more, but we're not priced competitively. I know from a European rare earth magnet fabricator who's building a new facility here in the U.S. with Department of Defense money, I know that they were pricing those magnets at more than double the Chinese cost, right? That accounts for the importing, the 13%, that accounts for all of those other things, but it has to account for a normal margin. So, is Ford Motor Company going to buy millions of rare earth magnets at 150 or even 200 times China's reliable cost? Not if they don't have to. So anyway, this is the big one I kind of pounded on earlier, TBDY. The reasons, there is not a single active mine in the United States that can produce TBDY HO. There are claims that MP has produced TBDY HO from a samarium SEG concentrate, but nobody has ever asked about the chain of custody. That samarium concentrate, SEG concentrate, was produced inside China. There's no way MP didn't have the capabilities of producing the SEG. So how do you know that that's MP concentrate or not, a standard Chinese concentrate flowing through a giant separation factory? Anyway, I don't believe it. People on the geochemistry side, nobody believes it, but somebody does. Anyway, other than that, they're theoretical 24 tons a year. Lynas produces a tiny amount. They really do, but it's too small to matter. Why did this happen? In 1980, the NRC and the IAEA changed regulations surrounding the regulatory threshold level of thorium and uranium, making all heavy rare earths mined anywhere outside of an IAEA or NRC regulatory environment to be classified as nuclear source material, so they all quit mining it. People quit buying it. And the entire heavy rare earth industry died, and subsequently all the technology was willfully transferred to China. Anyway, in the world today, most, literally all heavy rare earth producers with TBDY-HO, with meaningful levels, they're all under China's control. Of course, that's enhanced every day with One Belt, One Road, and the massive platforms they have for processing it and incorporating it into components and then products. So it's very challenging. So what's the highlight of all this? Well, China actually controls every magnet that's gone into every military system for at least 2 decades. Not just the NdFeB magnets, they also control all samarium, separated samarium on the planet, because they set prices, and they set the price of samarium roughly $20 below its separation cost. So what happens? Nobody's going to produce it here because it's a guaranteed loss. So everybody buys their samarium from or through China. That means every SMCO magnet and every NdFeB magnet and every single US and NATO system on this planet has Chinese components. Anyway, so recently the Department of Defense decided they were sick of this and they were going to fix this. And I can't criticize it entirely, because recognizing the capital cost issue, the Pentagon has basically given them $400 million for equity and then some other provisions, and then then gave them a guaranteed offtake of their material far above market price, and also have a guaranteed offtake into the finished magnets. This is a very aggressive program. They want MP to go from making 0 magnets to 10,000 tons a year. And basically, based on supply, they're going to make 10,000 tons a year of N-grade magnets. If, in theory, there's mysterious rare earths and an SEG concentrate where nobody can actually verify its chain of custody, then you're going to have a theoretical 42 tons a year, which means 9,000 tons of these magnets will be for toys and novelty items. So anyway, this is a pretty consistent problem, but somebody in the DoD is at least drank coffee that morning, and they have a provision that their job, that the DoD will try to procure heavy rare earths for the MP10X program. So that is good news. So let's look at what they're looking at. Okay, so U.S. Critical Materials, good people. I've known them for a very long time. Their mine has no heavy rare earths. It's on federal lands. It's got a thorium problem, and it requires a full resource assessment and this is not my up-to-date file. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, there's no way to load the up-to-date one. Anyway, they have serious permitting issues, which include federal lands, BLM, forestry, NEPA, tribal lands. So the permitting issues are pretty miraculous and burdensome. I cannot remember the second mine I wanted to put in there, but another one that they're looking at is Aramco Resources, and I'm sure a lot of people are aware this is suddenly the world's largest rare earth deposit on the planet Earth. It's a failed coal mine, and I wish I had my right presentation. It's really making me angry, but I'll try to get through it. But the problems are that, pragmatically speaking, that's just not going to happen. I read through the pre-feasibility report done by Fluor Corporation, and they are able to achieve this through mining soft clay seams inside a soft core, a soft coal ore body, and there's no accounting for our pillars or structural things, so I'm not sure how many different groups of miners you need to mill it and to mine it out. It looks pretty dangerous to me. But pragmatically speaking, they're assuming full recovery with no accounting for things like that. It's just not very realistic. And hopefully if these guys can load this other deposit, and then I'll go back and talk about that. No, here it is. Thank you. Awesome. Bear Lodge, which is, they're good people, and this mine is also, it's owned by General Atomics. It does have tiny amounts of terbium dysprosium, has thorium issue, and here's the list I wanted to go through. Here's the permitting challenges: U.S. Forest, BLM, EPA, NRC, NEPA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and mandatory tribal negotiations. So that's a couple years. So, and then on Ramco, what I wanted to go through was the ore to recovery ratio is roughly 30,000 tons of ore for 1 ton of material. And the way I read the report, it was 100% recovery inside seams. It just doesn't, who knows, miracles happen every day. So that's what they're looking at domestically. This is what they're looking at internationally. Somebody came up with a good idea to go to Myanmar, where there's a civil war, and try to get rare earths that are currently being sold to China, and China happens to be on that border. Couldn't be some crazy neocon thing to start I don't know. Anyway, that's one of the great ideas. Greenland, completely undeveloped HRE deposits, and they have serious actinide issues. Their radionuclide levels are above legal threshold before you even go in and start mining. A couple of the ore bodies have a silica rare earth mineralization that no one has ever successfully cracked or concentrated and extracted rare earths from. Afghanistan, there's another good idea, low temperature war zone, undeveloped. It's all light rare earths. Ukraine, well, we'll have to talk to the Russians about that because they now control anything that looked worth doing. And then sea nodules, which are going to be subject to international opposition and I would believe sustained social, cultural, and environmental protest. Whether it's possible or not, I'm not even going there. I'm just saying that probably would kill it. So, alternatively, a little closer to home, Caldera has a proven resource, proven recovery, proven concentration, and guaranteed separation. It has geopolitically significant quantities of terbium, dysprosium, and holmium. It will be a multi-commodity producer, so the rare earths would represent probably less than half of the revenues and profits. It has a completed 43-101 equivalent. I say equivalent because we're not planning on going public, so we're not filing it. Right now, we have the 43-101 and the pre-feasibility done, and we're continuing to optimize various things in the hydromet process, and so we're not completely wasting time. We're getting a lot of work done waiting on funding. We have private equity commitments that probably are substantially larger than what's listed there. But as the owners, we want to bring in government money first so that we don't get diluted by the private equity guys. So we'll be very patient and wait. We have submitted DoD funding applications for a SX demonstration where we would run traditional Chinese / if you know history, French solvent extraction against a very modern, very attractive looking column flotation system. So that would be something we'd run for the DoD as we make that final decision. We also have submitted a application for full funding for a gallium project. Our our heavy rare earth enriched fluoroapatite contains copious amounts of gallium, enough for us to supply 5% of the equivalent of 5% of the world's demand as a byproduct. And we have an application with XM, and we are currently under review by DOD, so who knows. So where am I on time? Do I have like 3 minutes or 3 seconds? 1 minute. So DOD plan is completely unworkable without a reliable source for heavy rare earths. You know, we're jumping around trying to make sure they understand that we're a pretty quick solution to that problem. Expectations of them doing the right thing based on past history. Well, yeah, not very optimistic. No, I am optimistic. We'll get this thing done. Anyway, here's just a picture of the difference. These are the primary permitted and or operating producers. MP, trace amounts. Linus, very tiny amounts. Caldera, that's the level of heavies that we'll be able to produce. And if you look correspondingly over to the blue and green bars, that's the natural ratio of the ND and PR in the ore body, and ours is literally at an ideal level, which means you don't need to do a lot of chemistry to it. Some of the others are a bit out of balance. You have to know a lot about magnets to know why that matters. Again, our natural ore matches up very nicely with the various grades, and that's what our initial ore body looks like. It is 24 million tons of tails, and there's 3 minerals we're going for. They're listed there. The tailings project will fund the reopening of the underground mine, and in the underground mine, we have 2 other ore deposits. The iron ore is the primary iron ore deposit contains the materials we're mining out of the tailings, and then there are breccia pipes outside the ore body. So we have about 700,000 tons of proven and or inferred, and so that's about 40 years of mining. All right, thanks. I'm sorry I went over.